G'day guys, welcome to PBHQ Live. This is episode number 369. I'm just going to tinker with that just a little bit to get started. I am Dwayne Nichols. I'm live here in Wagga with all the paintball news for the week. Coming off a massive week of NXL World Cup. Did you watch World Cup over the weekend? If you did, even if you didn't, let me know who you are, where you're watching from. Let us know if you were involved in playing paintball over the weekend just gone. Here in Australia, or there was some Australians over playing in the US. Will you be playing this coming weekend? The Super 7 Semi-Pro is gearing up for this weekend. So let us know if you're involved in anything. I see a few people joining in on Facebook and on YouTube already. I do apologize. I'm getting a bit of stuttering at my end. I hope not stuttering as in me stuttering, which is something that does happen from time to time, but in my connection. So hopefully that doesn't affect the viewing of tonight's show. Let me know in the chat if it does. Connor is in, Amir is in from Malaysia, Russell from New Zealand is in, Brad, Craig from Adelaide, Bounty Hunters is checking in. Actually, whilst driving home from the event over the weekend, you'll see a Bounty Hunters jersey up in the background. We'll be talking about why that's there in just a little bit if you are not already aware. Pete Burgess from the Top Hat Jokers is in. There was a brief moment where there was going to be a Top Hat Jokers shirt. It might even still be on the ground right beside me. Oh no, I packed it away. Look at me being responsible and packing things away. So yeah, thanks for checking out tonight's show. We're going to get into everything. Paintballshop.com and Gladiator as the major sponsors of the show. I want to mention them first and get into it. So paintballshop.com, they have the G-Tech 180Rs arriving in the next couple of weeks. They are on the way. They should be at Paintball Shop very soon. So if you've been waiting on a G-Tech 180R, well, it won't be all too much longer. So get in touch with the guys from paintballshop.com and you can get yourself a G-Tech 180R. They're also getting, and I think this is a little bit further away, but I spoke to Mike for about half an hour today. They're also getting the custom label HK ones in time. So that's not what we're talking about here. At least that's not my understanding. But the 180Rs are on their way. James, Estevan, Louise all joining in at the moment. Thanks for checking out the show, guys. And make sure you're dropping a comment whilst you're joining in, particularly about World Cup and all things World Cup. If it was the 7-3 format, if you watched that and you liked it. If you liked following along with the Go Sports webcast this weekend and some of the changes they made with the drone shots and some of the on-screen graphics that they used this weekend. If you followed the Manawatu Titans that we're going to be talking about in just a moment, let us know in the comments what you thought of all of those things from the World Cup weekend, or any of the new products from World Cup that came out that you would have seen on your social media over the weekend. Speaking of the Titans and Gladiator, the Manawatu Titans have played in semi-pro all this year, all 5 events. So 5 trips for a couple of them out from New Zealand to the US. Big effort to get over to the US 5 times in 1 year, even if it was just for a holiday, but much less to play in the semi-pro division of the NXL US. Pretty inspirational, massive effort from the guys to get over there so many times. And this particular time, World Cup, the biggest event of the year, they made their way through the prelims, and what would typically be playing on Sunday, making it to Sunday, well, because World Cup starts a day earlier, they made it to Saturday to play finals. Unfortunately, they lost their first finals game, watched at about 11 o'clock on Sunday night here, and they were unfortunately eliminated, but their best effort to date, I'm sure that'll motivate them for a big 2024. Russell saying, feel bummed out for the Titans. Good effort they put in. I agree. And we saying the on-screen graphics would have made a lot of difference to those new to the sport and spectators. I liked it. Could have been a bit more bold. Yeah, so to touch on that, well, I'll come back to that in just a sec, because let's talk about the main news out of World Cup, and that is that Dynasty won again, 4 in a row. Interesting to see in this photo a rotor on Marcelo's gun and a spire on, I'm not sure who that is on the far side. It might be Chris Shear with the red gun on that side. But yeah, all the same, Dynasty these guys, there was an argument a couple of years ago when, for maybe the best part of 4 or 5 years, Edmonton Impact were either winning or getting podiums at every NXL event in the US and every Millennium event over in Europe. And for a little while, we were all discussing who can stop Impact, how good are they going to be. Their roster was still relatively young. They kept their roster together for a solid period of time, but that is no longer the case. Impact, who are still good, they got second at World Cup, nothing to sneeze at, and we can't discount how good they have been, how good that period of time between like 2016 and 2019 was for them. But there's no more argument. You can stop that. There is no point to be made for any other team being the best team in the history of paintball. It is clearly Dynasty. They've won more events than any other team. They've won the key events more than any other team. 4 World Cups in a row, 4 series titles in a row. The best of the best, man. Just absolutely incredible how they keep showing up and playing at this level. And the core of the team, your Greenspans, Fragies, Yosh, Ollie comes back, Marcelo, Blake. These guys have been there for a long time. They go and just get Archie Montemayor just for a laugh. Chris Shear comes in, plays incredibly well. Arturo does a job. Yeah, I mean, the roster's just stacked. Their second best 5 would go out and probably be one of the only threats to their best 5. So incredible effort from Dynasty. They won 3 events this year. The events that they did not win, they got third at both of those. Tampa Bay Damage, congratulations to those guys. Actually, I'll bring up just quickly the series rankings overview, so you can see here Damage getting second overall, Heat, Impact, X Factor. So some pretty, I guess, names you would expect to be there in the top 5. NYX is probably the first one that's a bit of a shocker. Even, and like, not that they had a shocker of a World Cup, but 13th doesn't match up with the rest of the results they had through the year. And the other big disappointment at World Cup was the New Orleans Hurricanes. If you see, they got 7th, 6th, 5th, and 22nd at World Cup. They just did not play well at World Cup. Aftermath made their way into the top 10 off the back of that. Red Legion ended up with a couple of good results, or better results towards the back end of the year. And if I just wanted to scroll down and make a quick point of the Latin Saints here. They finished 23rd overall when you bring in the UK or European-based teams for World Cup, but they finished dead last. They did not win a pro match this year. In fact, they got 20th at every event except one, or last at every event except one. The event where they did not get last, they still didn't win a game. However, they lost their games by less than other teams. So they managed to get an 18th. So yes, Brad Short, they needed to get 11th or better to avoid relegation. They're relegated. They were terrible. They probably bogged down too many teams. It was almost a free pass playing up against the Latin Saints this year. The guy Diego, who came in 2 years ago behind all that and brought all the hype and whatever, absolute joke. Glad to see the back of the Latin Saints. I hope we don't see the Latin Saints in semi-pro or Division 2 or whatever. Those guys just filter off into other teams, rebrand, whatever. The less I hear of the Latin Saints, the better. Actually, and one other thing I did want to, I'll see if I can find it on here before I cut back. I'll bring it up in just a little bit. But yeah, I think Austin Notorious, the other pro team that struggled a bit this year, they're lucky to avoid relegation, but it was just because the guys from Latin Saints were so poor across the entire year. We're saying in one match, Hurricanes had more penalties than they did all season. Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't get to watch a whole lot. I actually am no longer subscribed to Go Sports, so I only watched the stuff that was up on YouTube for this particular event. Brad saying Titans were awesome. Funny how the game changes so quick. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is across the board, not just in paintball, but that happens in a lot of sports. New players come in, things change a lot, but the one thing in paintball that does not change is that Dynasty are there or thereabouts in every single event they play. So that was the results from Pro. And if I jump back over to this graphic just here, we scroll down a little bit. Really impressively in SemiPro, Paintball Fit clean sweep the season. So five events, 5 event wins, and also just as impressive, Blast Camp being there for second every single time, and the newbies getting third 3 out of 5 events as well. Those 3 teams, man, I think if you take Notorious, get them out of there, the Ironmen, who you come up here and have a look, the Ironmen weren't good this year. Uprising sort of just squeaked past them. Brooklyn Bears, not a whole lot better. These 3 teams from the top of the SemiPro division, those guys aren't too far off the pace. When we talk relegation and promotion, and it happens to be 1 team each year, maybe they could be a case for 2 or more. With a 20-team competition, I think it would not be ridiculous for 2 or 3 teams to make their way up from SemiPro into Pro. When you're getting consistent firsts and seconds in SemiPro, yeah, they're obviously a solid team. Matt Stewart's in supporting Dynasty. Brad saying, coming from Canada, I've always followed Impact closely. Imagine if J-Rab and Goldman never left for the money's sake. Well, yeah, let's talk J-Rab, Spicker, those guys who go over and play with Latin Saints. That turns into a schmozzle. Let's just, for one last time, bring this graphic back up here again. AC Diesel, who Mark Johnson, I am of the understanding, and I don't know this, spent more money on his playing roster than any other team this year. And that's saying a lot between teams like Heat, the Russians, who are known to spend fairly decent amounts of money on their rosters, and Dynasty, of course. Diesel just did not click. They made 1 Sunday, or they may have made Sunday at this event. I don't know if they snuck into the wildcard round, but regardless, yeah, terrible from those guys. I mean, Goldman, J-Rab, Nico Hyde was on that team. Carl Spicker was on that team. There is too much talent on that team to have performed it the way they did across the course of the year. So, yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to shake up. And the interesting thing about paintball is there's zero loyalty. At World Cup, there would have been guys being spoken to about next year. The text messages will be on fire from tomorrow onwards when they wake up after World Cup. The wheeling and dealing will begin. The big teams, like your Heats and Dynasties, they'll go out and scout the talent that they're looking to pick up. A guy like Connor Kelly from last year, who was with the ML Kings, makes the way over to Heat. That will happen. And then in turn, on the way down, guys from Heat that maybe haven't been getting as many spins, feel like they could offer something to a different team, they'll find their way onto other teams. Silly season officially begins the moment the World Cup is won, and that'll be happening for the next couple of months until we see the events. I did have a photo here too to talk about Paintball Fit. Congratulations again to these guys and the Luckow family on the commitment to paintball, to their team, to the Texas paintball scene. A lot of success out of Texas just across the board. So massive effort for these guys. And then I'm happy to see, and this has never happened in NXL history before, at the end of World Cup, they announced all 5 event dates and locations for 2024. So if you want to make your way over from here in Australia to the US for any of those events, well, you can start to schedule your holidays now, make plans to be in the US for any and all of the NXL events. That's been a long time coming. Not only does that help people in the US, but that helps events like the Super 7s announce their dates earlier. If there was any interest from US-based pros coming out to Australia, they've always tried to keep the Super 7s on separate weekends from pro events over there. So yeah, really like that. Dynasty gels so much better than any other team. Oh yeah, 4 World Cups has never been done before. So that's testimony enough of that. I think they're in the region of 7 or 8 World Cup wins total now. That could be more. I just seen that on an Instagram comment earlier today. So just, you can't say enough good things about Dynasty. They just keep producing, and their pickups, like a guy like Chris Shear, it's such a good pickup, man. They just keep getting so much better. Brad saying it's the same teams, same group of guys that stay loyal. They clash and gel so much better means a better performance on the field. Yep, I mean, Heat and these teams like Damage is probably the next best example of a team that between the guys that they've had there, they've had a real good core group for about 3 or 4 years now. Heat as well. And then you go down Impact and a couple of other teams, X Factor, Infamous, I think were there or thereabouts. Yeah, Revo. They're all in that sort of same region. They're the teams that keep the core together and just bring in new guys from time to time. That's like just evident across their results. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to change there. I don't know at what age these guys from Dynasty are going to start breaking down or playing less and competing at such a high level, but it doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon. So yeah, congratulations again to them. If we come back to here in Australia and talk some results from the weekend just gone, the Super Sevens M's division was played over the weekend. 8 teams turned out for